Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In Romans chapter 15 and verse 1 and following, it says, "Now we who are strong ought to bear the weaknesses of those without strength and not just please ourselves. Each of us is to please his neighbor for his good, to his edification. For even Christ did not please himself, but as it is written, the reproaches of those who reproached you fell on me." Here the Apostle Paul is encouraging those who were strong in the faith. That is, those who knew the liberties that they had in Christ. They recognized the fact that they no longer had to follow the dietary laws, the Jewish laws, nor did they need to follow the days, the holy days of the Jewish community, of the Mosaic law. And they understood that Christ was the fulfillment of the law, and that they no longer had to observe these things. However, Paul is very firm in saying that just because you realize that you have this liberty, you shouldn't use that liberty to pass judgment on your brother, to look down on your brother, or to try to force your brother to enter into the liberties that you've come to enjoy. You need to respect the fact that he has these convictions. And as he said in the previous chapter, if that brother or sister was to get involved in these liberties that you have, even though they don't feel like they are liberties, even though they are convicted in connection to these things, if they do that, then they sin. And so he says, we don't want to cause our brothers and sisters to sin. To them, it would be sin to violate their conscience and going against what they believe to be right. And so he's saying that those of you who are strong, who know the liberties that you have in Christ, you ought to bear the weaknesses of those without strength. In other words, bear with those things, show some forbearance, be patient with those who don't feel like they have the same liberties as you, and don't be so concerned about just pleasing yourself, trying to get your way, trying to get people to do things the way that you think they should be, just being concerned about yourself. And he uses Christ as an example. Christ himself didn't come to please himself, but what did he do? He says, the reproaches of those who reproached you fell on me. He was willing to take on the reproaches. He was willing to take on really, if we go to, ultimately what he did was he took on the wrath of God for us. And so he did that not to please himself, but to please us, to help us, to serve us. And so couldn't we do that for our brothers and sisters in Christ? And so that's kind of what Paul is saying primarily in these verses. And this becomes very important for us as we go to church today. As we go to church today, we could ask ourselves, why are we here? Why are we even going to church? Are we going just to please ourselves? Are we going just for our own benefit and edification? Or are we also going for the edification and building up of our brothers and sisters? I'm afraid in America, when it comes to church, oftentimes we have this consumer mindset. Just like the nation that we're in, very consumer driven, to where we look at our options and see, okay, what best serves my purposes? Let me go with that, and everything like that. And that carries over into the church, to where when we walk into a church, we look around and say, okay, what can this church do for me? And how can the church serve me? And it's really all about me. This verse shows us that it's not all about us. It's about our brothers and sisters in Christ. And it's not about just pleasing ourselves, but pleasing the other and doing what is good for the edification of our brothers and sisters. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be fed when we go to church. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't feel edified when we go to church. It just means that we ought to go to church with the idea that we are primarily concerned with building up our brothers and sisters. And if they have the same attitude of being primarily concerned with building up their brothers and sisters, then we ourselves will be built up by them. And so everyone will be edified if everyone goes to church with the attitude of trying to build up other people and not being so concerned with themselves. And so as we engage with Christians today, or if you're watching this video maybe after you went to church, maybe looking forward to the next time you meet with brothers and sisters, when we come together as a congregation, we can begin to think of ways to build up others. And sometimes it's just showing up. Sometimes just showing up to church is edifying to others. You know, it's very encouraging when everyone shows up, when everyone is there, when everyone is involved. That in and of itself is encouraging. So just showing up in some ways is encouraging if it's safe for you to do that. But once you do show up, there are other things that you can do as well. By putting on a cheerful countenance, by complimenting others, by encouraging others to love and good works, which the book of Hebrews talks about in chapter 10. There's a lot of different things. The words that you speak, the attitude that you have can be very encouraging to people. Just hanging around after services and talking to people and building relationships with people, that's a way that you can build up others. And so there's a lot of different ways that we can edify others and be concerned about the building up of others and not be so concerned about ourselves. So as we go to services today, or again, if you're watching this after you've already gone to services, as you go to services the next time you meet with your church, go to it with the attitude of not being so concerned with pleasing yourself, but in the edification, in the building up of other brothers and sisters in Christ. And I think you'll find that if you do that, and if I do that, we will all be encouraged together, mutually encouraged, because we're doing it together, and it becomes an atmosphere where everyone is concerned about everyone else, and everyone ends up being built up. So let's do that today, guys. I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.